Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. For me, it is Saturday night, October the 15th, 2016. I hope everyone has had an excellent 2 weeks since I took last week off a little bit, since there wasn't a whole lot going on. And unfortunately, still news-wise, there's not a whole lot going on just yet. So I'm going to spend probably most of this episode just talking about games that I've played and things that I'm waiting for, and hopefully be just it'll be fairly, I guess, concise in that regard. There's not too much in the way of news. A few little news drippets and droppets and guanu, I guess. I don't know where I'm going with that in this the last 2 weeks or so. But yeah, mostly just talking about some games that I've been looking at and things I'm waiting for and that kind of thing. I'm also slightly I've had a few hours ago I had about a dozen or so of those little compact injected sugar letters that you put on birthday cakes. So I'm like the Jem'Hadar on the white. Like there's like literally a tube going from my heart to my neck that's just like Ketracel white, just going into my bloodstream right now. And I'm running around going, let's go kill those Federation do-gooders. That's how I feel right now. Of course, I'll probably crash in about half an hour or so, halfway through this, I'm sure. But for right now, I'm pretty wired. The sugar rush is in full effect right now. But I hope everyone's had an excellent 2 weeks. I think I already said that, but that's okay. I'll say it again. I hope everyone's had an excellent 2 weeks. And just buying some time. That's all I'm doing right now. So I've been up to a few things here and there. I've been playing a bunch of games as side quests. Actually, I have one recorded that I meant to put out earlier in the week and have not done so yet. It's just now rendering as we speak. But I played an older game called Rochard, and it's a platforming puzzle game, space platforming puzzle game, where you use sort of a gravity gun-like thing to suck up blocks and boxes and stack them up and use them to get higher vantage points. And there's different types of force fields that some allow some stop boxes from going through, others allow you to move through them but not boxes, and then some just block weapons fire but allow you to move through them, that kind of thing. So it's kind of an interesting little mishmash of the puzzles plus the platforming, a little bit of story. It's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's got a little bit of a comedic flair to it. It was an interesting little playthrough. There's some gravity manipulation you can do during it to like have low gravity situations, so you can jump further and pick up heavier boxes and that kind of thing. So that'll be coming up soon on the channel. I probably will schedule that maybe for Tuesday or so, and have that go up next week, and that'll get me a leg up on some of the side quests for next week. But I've been playing that playing a little bit of that, so you'll be seeing the seeing the side quest video of that go up soonish. It was okay. It was pretty good. Like I said, it was from 2011, so it's been out there for a while. It's been in Steam sales and whatnot, so you can probably take a look at it and see what you think of it. And then another game that I still have to revisit, that I've been revisiting a little bit off camera, but I have not revisited on camera, is Paladins. Now, Paladins, within the last week or two, actually came out on Steam. I still think it's early access, I believe. But it's prior to this you could only get it through the high-res launcher and all that stuff. Now they actually have it integrated with Steam. It's free to play now. When I got into it, there was like a founders pack that you could buy that gave you a leg up on things, and I think that still gives you some stuff in game, but it's not the same as it was. The game is when I played it, it was back in, I think, Alpha 28 or so, maybe, is when I was playing it. And between then and now, the game is almost unrecognizable. The heroes are still there that we know from before. They've added some more heroes, but most of their abilities are pretty much the same as they were. But they've changed up a lot of things about how the game plays. The game, when it was back when I was playing it, when it was in the alphas, early alpha, it was getting compared to Overwatch a lot, even though it was really nothing like Overwatch back then. Now, it's far more similar than it was then to Overwatch, and it's still getting compared to Overwatch. So I think this idea that it's been going around, the internet. People are like, "Oh, this is just a copy of Overwatch" and all that stuff. It's like this game has been getting that since the early alpha. I mean, and it used to not be. It used to be even less like Overwatch than it is now, and it was still getting that. So there was really nothing that Hi-Rez could do that would escape that shadow, per se. But I have played it within the last month or two or three. I was playing it just off camera to just get back up to speed with it, because it's been a while. There's a lot of things that I've played early on, and I kind of put them on the back burner. I got busy with other things, and I have to come back to them still. There's still a lot of things I want to revisit to see how they've turned out since the last time I looked at them. And Paladins is one of those. And I was playing it to try to get used to it again, and the card system is different now. Like, there's still cards in the game, but it's not like a 5-round thing like it used to be. You'd start out the game and you'd pick one of 3 cards, and then that was your level 1 card. And then as you played the game and your team leveled up, you gain access to another set of 3 cards, and you would do that. And it was all the different color-coded cards until finally you got to your ultimate cards. That's completely different now. Now the cards you get right at the beginning, you start out with a loadout, and you can set all different kinds of loadouts in the game, and then from there you pick what level of card you want. Like, they do it on a point system now, where before you would have like a card that was, the ultimate level, and then there was one that was like a violet level, and then there was like a gold level, and green was like the lowest level. And now it's now they just, instead of having like cards that were like that, where you just had one card that was this ultimate one, you had one card that was not, now they've taken all those cards and they've just kind of made them all be potentially ultimates. So what you do is you pick it, and you pick what level of card you want of that card, and as you upgrade the level on it, it costs more points, and you only get 12 points to make your hand, to make your loadout. And as you pump it up in level, it becomes more powerful. It becomes a more powerful variant of itself, which is really cool, because then you just focus on the card itself, and then you can mix and match and try to make a better loadout that way. That's pretty awesome. I kind of like the way they did that. But the things that sort of differentiated it before, and that I kind of liked, like the tower siege stuff, where it was one team or another on offense or attack or defense, and you had a castle with 2 gates and then a vault, and when the other team's cannon would come up to your, you had to go and capture a point, and whoever captured a point got a cannon, and that cannon would go off to the other team's base, and then the other team had to go on defense and stuff like that. They kind of have that, but they've changed it entirely. It's not, you're not defending bases anymore, which is kind of unfortunate, because that was fun. What they have now is really a reflection of how they've changed their heroes and stuff. Like, they've added some more heroes to the game, a lot more than I think there was only like 6 heroes when I was playing it. They've added a ton more, which I see why they did it. I mean, they're doing it because they're free to play and they need to sell skins to make ends meet. So you need more heroes in order to sell skins, but The problem is when you add more heroes like that, they all start to overlap and kind of run into one another. You know, it's like it's very hard to say, oh, I know exactly what that hero is capable of. I know exactly what that hero is capable of. I know what role this person's going to play. I know what role that person's going to play. It's really hard to tell anymore because you can basically be anybody, and you're really just picking whatever skin you like. I mean, to a certain extent, your heroes have innate abilities that are probably more to your playstyle. Like if you like turrets and stuff, you would have the one like dwarven guy. I forget his name. If you like mechs and stuff like that, you know, like tanks, basically, then you pick the little goblin guy and stuff like that. So that's still there. It's just that it's now more hero based than it was. It's not necessarily team based like it used to be. It's not a team working together. It's more like it's every man for himself, pretty much, at this point. Which to a certain extent I kind of like a little bit better because I don't like relying on the team. But at the same hand, I do feel like you've lost a little bit there. And I mean, obviously, you still need to be fighting for the objective, and I guess really that is a reflection of how people were playing the game. When I was playing it before, when it was more team based, there were people who were just not playing the objectives, and that was one of my big beefs that I had with the game, is that there were just people who just would not play the objective. Like your objective is to go and capture points that you can get at that time, so you could get a cannon, which would then travel off and destroy the other person's base. But now there's still an objective for people, but it's like you still have to capture the objective, and then whoever captures it is the attackers, whoever fails to do so is the defenders, and then you're just pushing a cart at that point, just like you would in Overwatch with the cart pushing. And I feel like that's more of a reflection of the fact that since nobody was playing the objective before, they figure, well, if nobody's going to play the objective, then every hero a generalist, and forget about having a team makeup or a team composition, because it's just going to be every man for himself anyway. Which I'm not necessarily I don't necessarily have a problem with, because I would normally not be much of a team player anyway, but it is a very vastly different way of doing things than what they were doing. Not very different from what is out there, but what they were doing. There's very little difference now between Paladins and Overwatch and maybe even Team Fortress 2 than there was in the past. in the last, like a year ago. Was it a year ago? It might have been a year ago, something like that. So it's an interesting conundrum there that they've sort of touched upon, but I can't say that it's wrong, because they are actually changing the game to match the way people were playing it. So that's probably a win-win situation there. When I played it, I felt like the map that I was playing on, and it's probably still in the rotation. It was like a lot of mines and stuff. It felt very claustrophobic, and I was very frustrated because I felt like I couldn't really get a leg up on anything. Like there was no good spot to just kind of, catch your breath or anything like that. You were just kind of always in either a choke point or just out in what little open area there was. So I was a little bit frustrated by the maps. The maps are a lot smaller than they were. And when I was playing it last time, they, on streams and stuff like that, they were already making the maps smaller than they were because they wanted people to be able to get back on the objective quickly. And I like that. I like that they did that because it does not penalize you quite as much when you die. I think one of the other pieces of feedback that I had was that the penalty for dying was really harsh, and they were tweaking that a lot. They were tweaking it as like, all right, you die, so now you gotta wait, 10 seconds based upon, or I think it was like 10 seconds or something like that, based upon how many defenses you still have left. If you or how many defenses the other team has left. I mean, so like if you were on the attack, if you were had the other team down to only like their vault left, then every time you died, you would have to wait something like 30 seconds or something like that to get back into the game. Whereas if the other team was up, still had all their barricades up, and you were down 2 or something like that, you only had to wait like 10 seconds or something like that. So it was some formula that they had in there. It seems like I don't know, I don't think that formula is there anymore. I think it's everybody respawns in the same amount of time now. I think I don't know for sure. I didn't really read too much into it, but it's what they've done is they've just made the maps really condensed to the point where you can get back onto target pretty quickly, back to where you need to be. So that's probably a better way of doing it. I mean, all around it seems like they've done it a little bit. They've done a little bit better than what was there, but it has really changed the shape of the game to something. I don't know. I find the game slightly less appealing than I used to. I mean, they seem to have fixed the problem of people, who bought into the game, who bought cards, being just completely annihilating the other team. So now they sort of even that odds a little bit there. So everything they've done is still, everything Hi-Res has done to it is good, I think. There's just something about it that just rubs me the wrong way, and I can't really figure out what it is. I mean, it just feels like, for a multiplayer shooter game, it feels like it was very tight corridor and not, like, there were times where I felt like I was given a sniper rifle and said, okay, here's the little cardboard box that everybody's fighting in. And I'm like, well, I guess maybe, it would be nice if I had a sniping perch to sit on and do things. But of course I felt the same way about Overwatch too, where it's like if you play Widowmaker or whatever frickin' name was, it was like there's no real perches for you to sit on and actually snipe people. It's more like just throw yourself mercilessly into the fray and hope that somebody comes along and heals you. And of course they never do, because nobody ever plays a healer in any games. So it's a little bit of that. There is a lot more cover now, which is nice, because it wasn't, before I remember running in with the, with Sky, I think it was, the purple chick who could go invisible and drop bombs and stuff. And I remember that was difficult because there was a lot of open area. And so trying to actually sneak up and throw a bomb in there and run out was very, very hard. And now it seems like it's not quite as difficult as it was. So it does feel like they're playing up to more of the strengths of the characters they have there. That said, a lot of the characters that they've added are just overlapping with other ones. Like, they all sort of run together at this point. It feels like more of a just play whoever the hell you feel like playing, and don't worry about what is right for the match, because you can just tweak it to whatever you need, which is is nice in one respect, but in another respect it's like it feels like that was a money decision more than anything else. It's like, here you go, here's some characters, get used to the one, like the one that you like, so that you'll put some money down on it. If we force you to play other characters, you might not spend any money, but if you have the freedom to play whoever you want, maybe you'll plunk down some more money. So I can see where they're going there. I mean, one thing I always hated about the little bit I played of Heroes of the Storm was that it's like, here, we're gonna, here are the free characters you get to play this week, and it's like, I've never played any of these characters before, and you can't even practice them, and you go and you play in a match, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, you suck. This is terrible. You're terrible at this." I'm like, this is the first time I played this person, because I don't have another choice. So I, from that perspective, I could see, yes, it's probably good that they have this big roster of characters, so you can just kind of pick the one that you enjoy the most and just stick with that one. But it's an interesting one. I don't know what to make of it yet. I really don't. I do want to get back into it again. I would like to make another video of it once I feel a little bit more comfortable with how things are working in there, because the last couple of matches I played, I was like, I'm not quite sure yet. They did take the whole... The other thing that they did to try to make people actually, do the objectives is every time you get an objective thing going, you get like credits in the match, and then you can pay off every time you die. You can pay credits to, or every time a next round comes, you can pay credits to get a card that will upgrade you, that'll give you a buff for that round. So like you can buff up your damage, or you can buff up your stealth or something like that for a certain amount of credits. So that helps out too. That helps keep people focused on actually doing the objectives rather than just running and fighting each other and being off in the wilderness. That used to drive me nuts when you'd be the only guy sitting on the objective and nobody else, and you're not really the character that's supposed to be collecting objectives, but you're sitting there and your team is nowhere to be found. They're just off like going 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 against other people, just trying to get their skill core. Wow, there we go. Their kill score up, and it was just what they've done now. I think they've incentivized you to not be doing that, to just go and play the actual game that's there, and they managed to keep the matches down to like 15 to 20 minutes, which is good too. Not having these long matches and all that stuff. So yeah, that's so far what I know about Paladins. I need to get back into it again. I need to actually download the Steam version of it so I can get moved over to that and get back in there and see, get back on that horse, get back on that fire horse, and go galloping around and see what I can make of it again. Something else I played on the channel, Hackmud. I don't know if I've talked about Hackmud yet. I might have, but I'm not sure. It was a terminal-based hacking game in the style of sort of an uplink, but it's all command line based, and I think JavaScript. You can write JavaScript scripts, and it's got all that kind of a JavaScript sort of command structure. And you run scripts, and there's a story there. There's like chats that you get involved with, and eventually, once you break out of the VLAN that you're stuck on at the beginning of the game, it then becomes a multiplayer MMO game where you can then go and hack other players, or you can hack NPCs, and the idea is to just gather money. And people can then hack you as well if you run one of their scripts and it's a malicious script, and it's they can take money from you, or they can break your encryption on things and stuff on your own bank account and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. I haven't gotten that far into it, that deep into it. I really would like to play some more of it to try to learn some more. I've only barely scratched the surface of it, and there's people on Reddit who are like, here's some scripts on how to break tier 1 locks and all that stuff, and there's people who are like, here's I'm at like tier 3 locks, and here's how I'm breaking things. And I'm like, wow, this is a lot deeper than I initially thought, and I should really play more of that. I'm on the fence as to whether or not I would play like a let's play of it, because it would take a lot of time, because you do have to write your own scripts at certain points, and you have to figure out. I think they're using a custom JavaScript engine. I don't know why. There's plenty of JavaScript engines out there that you can just use. Like Mozilla has like Rhino and stuff like that. I mean, there's tons of things out there that you can use that do plain old JavaScript, but I think the developer has created their own JavaScript interpreter, so it mostly does JavaScript, but there's some idiosyncrasies in there where it doesn't quite do some language constructs. But other than that, that seems like a really interesting puzzle game. You can kind of peel back the layers of the onion and try to get more story out of it. I don't know how much more story they're going to be injecting into it. I think that the interesting thing about that is there's always these NPCs just kind of floating around that you can hack to get money out of, and in so doing, you're actually getting some more of the story. So it'd be interesting to see the developer constantly putting more, new stories into the game as you're out there, because it is an MMO in many respects of the term, and it'd be interesting to see how that fleshes out. I could see that being a very it's certainly a different take on that whole hacking genre. Which, by the way, there's been quite a few games recently that are coming out that are in the hacking, computer hacking genre thing. So I have my work cut out for me. I just bought one a little bit earlier that I forget the name of now. That I'm going to be looking at that, and also I looked at Shenzhen I, which is from Zachtronics, the makers of TIS 100 and Space Chem and Infinifactory, and what else? Was that all of them? I feel like I'm missing one in there, but yeah. And Shenzhen I was a good deal of fun. It's one of those things where, and TIS 100 did the same thing to me, where it was like, I know assembly language because I used to do a little bit here and there, just as a hobby, not as professional or anything like that. But I used to do assembly language and stuff, so I know assembly language. And one of the things that always bothers me about these games is that, well, it kind of bothers me, is that they take a subset of assembly language and model that, but it's only a subset. And I know that there's a reason for it. The reason for that is usually to make it either A, more accessible to people who don't know how to program, or B, to make the puzzles harder, which is fine. It's just that it's that B part, making puzzles harder, that bothers the crap out of me every time. Like when I sit down and play Shenzhen I, I'm like, all right, I need to do this and this and this. So I'm like, okay, all right, I need a Boolean logic for this, and I need some of this, a little jump over here and all that stuff. And the game's like, yeah, no, I don't have those things modeled, so you gotta do it a different way. And that usually just irks me. It irks me a lot, because I know that I could do it a lot more efficiently and better, but the tools are not there in the game to do it. And one of the things that always bothers me, this bothered me with TIS 100 too, was like when you're typing something, you're typing out the commands, and then all of a sudden you hit the end of the chip, and it's like, oh, you can't put any more on this chip. And I'm like, damn it! Now you're forcing me to make a inferior thing, not because I need to do it, but because the game just doesn't support what I'm trying to do. And sometimes it drives me nuts seeing that. And I know that those are artificial limits. I mean, in real life, yeah, kind of, there are limits like that, but these limits were imposed artificially just to piss me off. That's the way I look at it. Just there to just piss me off, to force me to use the more expensive and crappier chip just to get some more extra lines of EEPROM code that I can put in there, and get through the puzzle. That said, they did, unlike TIS 100, this one actually has some music all the way through, and it's got some really nice visuals. It's very pleasing to the eye. It's very, the music isn't overwhelming. It is a lot like programmers' music, really, honestly. Like when you're sitting down and you're just programming something, you just want something on in the background to just help you concentrate and think. And it's usually I go for music that has no words in it, and this is the same with that. It's just nice and pleasant, and generally very cool. And I like that in some of the puzzles, it'll actually show you the billboard or the camera or whatever object it is that you're programming, and as it steps through your code, you'll see like the lights show up on the billboard and all that stuff. And I think that's super cool. I like the aesthetic around. I like what they've done with it. I still would like to know what the hell that girl says in Chinese when you beat her mahjong, or not mahjong. Yeah, no, free cell. When you beat her free cell game, because I'm very curious as to that. But other than that, I really enjoyed that, and I'd like to go back and actually do some more of that. If I do, it would be on a live stream, not as a series. But it is something that I'm very curious to see what else comes up, because I know there's a lot more chips, a lot more ways of handling those puzzles, because I was looking at the leaderboards during the recording, and there were people who were doing things with lesser power and all that stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, they must have gone back and revised it and did it with some other chip that they got later on in the game that they unlocked in order to do it. So it's I kind of want to do that too. I kind of want to go back and revisit and optimize things and make them cheaper and all that stuff. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. There's been as I said in that video, there's been a lot of games recently that are programming like games that are designed for people who maybe aren't really programmers or aren't computer science people, but it's sort of, they're designed in a way to sort of get you interested. If you have any affectation, is that the word? Affiliation? Any whatchmadoozit? any connection at all, any possibility of connecting with computer science. Like Human Resource Machine was another good one with that, where it sort of teaches you how to think logically, think like a programmer sort of, and how think about how a computer is supposed to do things. And I welcome that. I welcome all those games of that type, because it really it'll either show you that you have an affinity, that's the word. It'll either show you that you have an affinity towards something, or it'll convince you that you really don't care about programming at all. But either way, it's good for that purpose. I mean, even if you're just a puzzle solver and you just like solving puzzles, I guess it's good for that too. But it's yeah, I enjoy those, and I will be playing, it looks like, quite a few more as we go along here. I also played a game called Aragami. This one's an interesting one. It's a stealth ninja game, action game, where you are I was going to say smoke monster, but you're not really a smoke monster. You're a shadow ninja. You've been summoned from what I think is from the dead, and you have basically the nighttime to go and save a princess, I think, that's been captured, and she was the one that summoned you, and all the other enemies that you're facing are light ninjas. So light obviously defeats dark and all that stuff, so they can kill you in one slice. So you have to be very stealthy, and you can either take them out, and the game will reward you for that. If you take every one of them out, the game will reward you. Or you can leave all of them alone, and the game will reward you that way too. So it's like, hey, you can either be a complete pacifist or you can be a complete badass. Whatever you want to do, you'll get a reward for it. So that was pretty cool. The problem that I have with stealth games, especially third-person stealth games, well, first-person too, I guess, in that regard, is that it's very unforgiving. I had that problem with Thief too, and I've tried on many occasions to play the original Thief Deadly Shadows, and though I enjoy being stealthy and sneaky and just sniping people out from afar, I get very frustrated by it when the enemies seem to have perfect knowledge of the world, right? It's like you take somebody out, and then the enemy comes and says, oh, there's a body, I should go and investigate this. And then they investigate it, and all of a sudden they set up an alarm and everybody on the map knows about you. It's like, I hate that. I really do. I really think it should be more like they have to go run off and tell people, and as they're running off to tell people, you take them out. But so that and this suffers from that too. And once they know about you, then all of a sudden, they can see you in the shadows and stuff. It's just a weird kind of disconnect that I always have with these games. I always like. I know this kind of. It's weird. I'm thinking about Dishonored and Dishonored 2, and when I think about the stealthy stuff, and even Deus Ex, the newer ones, like the newer, Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. I've been playing them as almost pacifists, but mostly just trying to not really pacifists, because I think in Human Revolution I was killing people, but in Mankind Divided I've been going through with just the dart gun and shooting people, because it's a lot of fun. It's better than the pistol in many regards to her, and it's I find a lot of fun in the narrative around that, because it's like you're sneaking around, and in my mind, whenever I'm doing that in a game, it's like this guy is just he just came to work. He's 3 days away from retirement, and he's like talking to his friend, like, yeah, I got myself a house, and I got a boat waiting for me, and in Falafel Land, it's just south of Pancake Islands and slightly to the west of the Deep Dish Peninsula or whatever, and I've got all this stuff planned out, and my wife is waiting for me, and we're gonna go and we got our plane tickets booked and all this stuff. And then I just kind of walk up behind him and go, lights out, dirt nap. And so every time I'm in a game like that, I just have this narrative going on in my head, like, oh yeah, I'm the asshole that just killed this guy who has whole future ahead of him, and now he's just face full of dirt. And so when I do that in like Dishonored and stuff, it felt really good, even though it took me forever and a day and tons of editing to get through that game in the pacifist way. It just felt cool from my perspective. I felt like a ninja, in the shadows, much like Aragami is trying to make you feel like a ninja in the shadows. And I was actually thinking too, since Dishonored 2 is coming out, and I just pre-ordered it myself. I actually pre-ordered that, and I pre-ordered Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, so expect some of that on the channel when it comes out. But I pre-ordered Dishonored 2, and I was thinking about, like, I played Dishonored 1 in the low chaos mode, and I kind of want to do the same thing in Dishonored 2, but I've got 2 characters now, so it's like, do I record it twice, or do I just do one, right? Like, do I record it where it's like, I'm going to play Corvo like I did in the first one, where he's just a pacifist and he's low chaos, and play Emily like just a total badass bloodbath, I can't sleep at night unless there's arterial spray on my dress kind of mode. I'm kind of thinking in my head that would be really cool, but it would be ridiculous amount of work for me to do. But at the same time, I'm like, because every time I look at somebody playing Dishonored, and I've seen this too with like Deus Ex, Mankind Divided and stuff. I see people playing it and they're like, oh, I'll just run in gunning. I'm just going to run in. I'm just going to mow everybody down. I'm like, man, that's really cool the way you did that, but I don't feel like I can do it the same way. Like, I feel like I'm missing out if I do that. But at the same time, it's so freaking cool. Like, I watched someone was doing what mission was it? It was the one where you go into the castle and get the Lord. Was it the Lord Regent? Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it was. I think it was the Lord Regent one, where you get into his keep, and this guy just went in there and just was like, it was total bloodbath. He was going in there. He was, blinking around and chopping heads off, and then, juggling the head, like you throw it up in the air, and then he'd go over and kill somebody, and he'd grab the head again as it was falling down, and it was just crazy balls. And I'm thinking to myself, that would be a hell of a lot of fun if I had played the game that way. Instead, I had to sneak around all over the place and like, oh, I'm not going to take on these tall boys because I'm just gonna leave them be because I can't take them on and be stealthy at the same time. And this guy's just like, I'm just gonna jump around and blink all over the place. He's jumping on their backs. He's blinking off the roof and landing on them and taking them out. And it was fantastic to watch. It was almost ballet like to watch. And I've seen quite a few videos like that. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm not playing the game right. And yet, every time I sit down, and a game gives me a satisfying stealth mechanic, I'm like, yep, I'll do it that way. And all that tangent was to come back to Aragami and say that the stealth in the game, to me, was not very satisfying. Like, it didn't, even though you could blink around and stuff, and you can create shadows that you can blink to and all that stuff, it just didn't feel fun, at least for me. Like, it felt more like a chore, because you knew that as soon as you made just one little balls up, suddenly the alarms are up and everybody's on your back. And, also the knowledge that you can't, like, in a game like Dishonored and stuff, even if you alert somebody, there's still a moment of time, like a few seconds in there where you can still finish them off and not have everybody and their grandmother running up on you. But this game is not none of that. Like, there were times when the guy would literally, I'd blink behind a guy and I'm about ready to take him out, and he would turn around right at the last minute, and without me being able to even do anything, just fire off his sword, he slash with his sword, and I'm just dead in one shot. And it was just a little bit infuriating at times, a little bit frustrating, the difficulty on that. I mean, and it ramps up like almost immediately from relatively difficult to just ridiculously difficult. So I don't know. I'm lukewarm about the Aragami. I actually had more fun playing Shadow Blade Reloaded than this one, and that one wasn't really a stealth game, but it felt more stealthy it felt more satisfyingly stealthy when you were undetected than this does when you have to be stealthy, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that made any sense or not. Like I said, coming down off the sugar high, right on time. 42 minutes in, we're coming down off that sugar high now. So that was Aragami. Then I played a game called 50 Years. I got a key for on Keymailer. That one is an interesting. It's billed as a strategy game, light strategy for sort of a lunchtime strategy game where it's like it'll take you maybe 20 minutes to get through the game from start to finish, or whatever your finish may be. The idea is there's 50 turns. Each turn is a year, and you have a limited number of actions you can do, and limited mostly by your gold and everything else that you've accumulated. And then every couple years you get attacked by random enemies, and eventually the enemy will just throw 3 minotaurs at you and just wreck your face. It's basically the way it is gone. And there's like a scouting party that will find like caves and stuff where you can get like extra perks from clearing those caves out and whatnot. And it's mostly just a management and strategy game. You're just managing your army and making sure that you can continue to fight and win battles. And it's interesting from that perspective. Because it's like a lunchtime strategy game, it's not very deep. In fact, it's quite shallow. There's a lot of times, especially in the early game, where you're just like, all right, well, I can't do anything this year, so I'm just gonna hit next end turn, and you get into that pattern a lot where there's just moments where you're like, well, I just can't do anything right now, so I just gotta end my turn so I can get some more gold and what other resources I need to continue on. So you end up burning a lot of years in there. So it's not quite balanced yet. It's still early access, so it's not. I wouldn't expect it to be balanced yet, but it's there's still some work needed there, I think. And it's just you know, it's a game maker game. It's good for what it is. It's certainly not going to blow your mind away. It's a distraction when you need it, I guess, is the best way I can put it. But I feel like it just there are parts in there where that could be deeper, without sacrificing the length of the game. And I feel like that's where they need to probably focus some of their attention. There are times when, like for instance, I had like a ton of what was that? Honor, not honor. What was religion, spirits, whatever that currency was, whatever they called it, and I had nothing to spend it on. Like I had all this stuff built up as a Roman, and just had no units or anything to spend it on. So there's a lot of stuff in there that you end up getting along the way, that you end up not being able to use because of the faction you've chosen, or there's faction perks that you can get, but you have to have a ridiculous level of gold to get to it. So it's not supposed you're not supposed to get to it till later in the game, but good luck to getting later in the game to get access to it. You know, it's things like that that it feels like it needs a lot of little tweaks to kind of make it a little more balanced, and a little more interesting to play. I mean, right now it's just kind of it's like free cell. I mean, essentially, it's like if you're sitting down at lunchtime, you're like, I just need something to bide my time for a little bit, just to relax. And it's like, oh, I'll just play solitaire or I'll play free cell. It's basically that. It's not really any deeper than any of those games, I would say. So yeah, that's the way it goes. But they still have room to improve, as always, as does everyone, honestly. But that's as far as I can get with that, as far as deep as I could go with that, I suppose. So we do have a few little bits of news here. I'll just rattle off relatively quickly. So the PlayStation VR has come out, and apparently they've had hundreds of thousands of sales thus far, and Sony is looking to make some more, increase their production of them. And also, Sony is already selling them at a profit. I think most of the hardware that comes with the PlayStation VR is hardware that they already had. Like the Move motion control stuff was hardware that they already had, and that's what you use to control your character in game. I mean, hell, I have those too for PlayStation 3. And then I guess the VR headset was mostly parts that they already had for things, so they're already selling that at a profit. So that's good on Sony, I guess, on that. And it's nicer. It's far cheaper way entry-level VR to get into. I mean, the hardware in it's not really comparable to, you know, the Vive or the Oculus Rift, but it doesn't really have to be, because it's more of a, let's get you excited about VR. Let's get more people on the VR train, so that maybe they'll save up their hard-earned cash to level up as they go on. So and honestly, you know, more people have a console than they do a PC that is capable of running the current crop of VR stuff. So we needed something like this. If VR was going to be anything other than just a fad and a flash in the pan, you need something like this in order to get more adoption of it going. And so far so good on that front. I know that there's some VR headsets, I believe, that they're working on for the PC that not Sony, but others were working on to make it a little bit lesser cost. So I'm waiting to see on those. I forget exactly what it was. I forget what, was it Qualcomm? Oh, I might actually have it here. I do actually I have a link to it. All right, well, maybe we'll add that in there. I think Qualcomm was coming up with a cheaper VR with an all-in-one headset. And actually, I believe Oculus and others are looking at like a wireless VR thing. Like I have 3 VR headsets. I got a Gear VR, which I got for free because I pre-ordered the S7 Edge from Samsung, and then I've got a Vive and I've got an Oculus. The Vive actually, I haven't actually taken out of the box yet. Don't tell anybody. I'm not a true gamer, apparently. I just didn't feel like setting up the damn sensors, honestly. The Oculus was much easier in that regard because there's just one sensor, you just throw it on your desk and you're done. So that's why I have the Oculus set up. But it does have a lot of wires. Like, you put it on your head and it's comfortable, but it does have, you do have wires coming out the back, and they snake around to the back of your computer and all that stuff. So it looks like they're trying to go for a all-in-one wireless VR headset, which I am all for. That'll be great. So that'll probably be like the next generation of stuff, where you can just kind of put that on your head. It's nice and lightweight. There's no wires in the back. I really hope, though, the second generation comes with the same thing that Gear VR has, which is the little knob that adjusts the focal point of the lenses, because like the Gear VR I can wear without my glasses on. The Oculus I have to have glasses on for, and it's very uncomfortable. Also, it's very, even with my glasses on, like I was playing the other day, and I think I mentioned this in the last episode. I was playing Project Cars, and besides getting a huge, rush of, claustrophobia, because you look left and you look right, and there's just foam rubber things to keep your head in place. Besides getting that feeling, everything was just blurry. And I've had the same problem with Valkyrie, where you try to look at the dashboard, and I had my glasses on and everything. You look at the dashboard in front of you, and it's just blur. Yet, I've played other games where it wasn't a problem, so I don't know what's going on there with that. That's the part that kind of drives me nuts. So, my hope is that the next generation of stuff, not only being wireless, but it would also be, have some kind of focus on it, so you can focus the lenses and all that stuff. I would love to wear a VR set without having to put my glasses on, is what I'm getting at there. Because that would be the ultimate for me. And I honestly, going into it, didn't realize I would need glasses on, because yes, I wear glasses, but I don't need them for up close things. And I'm putting something right up on my face, but I do need it because of the difference between my eyes as far as the focus goes. Like, I have one eye that's worse than the other eye, and the two eyes, when they work in unison, actually, the one eye will help the other eye out. But when you look through a VR headset, your eyes are separated. There's a separation between your two lenses, so my left eye can't help my right eye out, or vice versa. So everything ends up being blurry when it really shouldn't be otherwise. So it's just little things like that I hope that they address with this next generation of VR stuff. And so PlayStation VR out there now, there's more to come, I'm sure. We need some VR games that are actually worth playing, because I haven't really seen any yet, per se, other than ones that have VR sort of bolted onto them. And I need to figure out how to actually record them, because that's the parts that's bothering me. Like, there's some good ones out there that I want to record, but every time I try to record it, it just looks like ass. It's just bad. Like, you can't, because you can only really record one eye, right? Because if you try to record both eyes, then on the video you're going to see both halves, and that's not going to be really fun to look at, because there's overlap between the two lenses, because obviously your eyes overlap in your point of view. So you have to sort of you have to just take the video from one eye, and then when you take the video from one eye, it's not a full, widescreen video, because it's only, one eye. So it's like, well, now you got to sort of expand it, and you're going to get artifacting there, because it's going to kind of expand out to the window and stuff, and just little things like that. First world YouTuber problems is why you haven't seen any VR videos from me at all. And also, for some reason, YouTubers don't share their tips and tricks. Like there have been people who have recorded stuff on YouTube for VR, and nobody talks about how they did it. it's like as a programmer, I can go out on Stack Overflow, I can go out on the internet, and I can find any other programmer who is willing to tell you everything, every secret that they've ever known about how to do anything as far as programming is concerned. And then I come over into the YouTube space, and there's just crickets. Like nobody wants to talk about how they do things, how they record things. Nobody wants to share any information because God forbid somebody else come in and do it better, right? It's like, it just drives me nuts sometimes. It's like, I look around, I'm like, what is the best headset mic? Nobody knows. There's just crickets. What is the best way to record VR? Well, on a Oculus DX2, I put it into this weird mode that does this. I'm like, well, that's great, but I have the consumer version. How do you do it on that? Oh, I can't tell you. I can't tell you because then other people make videos. It's like, let me shake the information out of you. Oh man. But anyway, that is the VR stuff as it stands right now. Batman Telltale Series Episode 3, I believe, the release date has been announced, and I believe it is Tuesday. This Tuesday coming up. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that is what it is. I think it is this Tuesday coming up. So I will be psyched. I am psyched to see that and see where we go with Episode 3 there. You might want to avoid some of the trailer. Well, some of the articles on it. I think I specifically picked GameSpot here because they didn't have a picture that is a spoiler for it. But there's a lot of... I was actually surprised at how many sites put up a picture of Episode 3 of Harvey Dent as his alter ego. Because apparently if you did a certain thing in Episode 2, you would get Harvey Dent as his alter ego. And I'm trying not to spoil it too much, but I think you already know what I'm talking about. And it's like, there are articles out there where they have that as the picture. I'm like, if somebody didn't play Episode 2, how would they... You've just spoiled that for them. You just spoiled that whole thing for them. Or if somebody did play Episode 2 and they didn't get that ending, you've now spoiled that there was a second ending. Like, thanks a lot, douchebags. Destructoid. And others. Yeah, that's... So, be forewarned that there may be some spoilerific pictures out there. You should be worried. You should be worried quite a bit if you're trying to not have any spoilers for Episode 3 there. And let's see. So there's a game that I've been following for a while that I kickstarted called Stash. No Loot Left Behind. And that has now come out on Steam Early Access. I'll leave a link to Hardcore Gamer, which actually talks a little bit about it. I have not made a video of it yet because I'm not sure what to make of it, honestly. I've been playing it off and on, and it's a turn-based MMO. Turn-based action MMO. RPG. So, there's some RPG mechanics in there, but it's all turn-based. So everything you do in game does, your character moves in squares, in turns. It includes the combat and includes the movement through the world. And yeah, I don't know what to make of it yet. There are people who are really, really enjoying it, and then I'm kind of like, I don't know how to enjoy it yet. I really don't. I've been trying to. I've been trying to find the hook, the thing that would say, yes, aha, this is a really fun game, and I still haven't found it. You have like I forget what they call it in game. It's like you have a home basically. They have a special name for it that you every time you look at it in the menus, you're like, what the hell is that thing? And you're like, oh, that's the home base. But in there, you can build up, your house with prefabs, and then there's you can have a stall where you sell things, you sell loot that you've collected to other players and stuff like that. It's interesting, but it's not really blowing my socks off. And honestly, I just don't know what to make of it yet. It just feels very, very incomplete and very, very boring. I mean, it's still early access, so I would expect it to be incomplete, but it's boring. I mean, I haven't really, there's nothing to it. And I mean, there's some quests that you can unlock at some point, but they're all like fetch quests. So, I mean, it's still so very early, and there's no real story. It's just kind of, it's just a thing. That's just weird. And I don't know, I don't know yet. I just don't know. That's the only assessment the only honest assessment I can give of it is just, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And I've been holding off doing a video of it because the video is going to be me just kind of scratching my head going, yeah, so this is a thing, and this is also a thing, and somewhere here there's a fun game, but I have yet to find it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that one for right now. Maybe we'll let that cook in the oven for a little while longer before I try to do some kind of video or something on that. And then also we had Duke Nukem 3D World Tour has come out to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Duke Nukem, or 25th. I think it's the 20th anniversary of Duke Nukem. It basically takes Duke Nukem 3D and improves the visuals a little bit, makes it work on newer systems, and it seems to have done a lot with the music. Like, I was listening to, I'll leave you a link to GameSpot, I think. Yeah, I think that's what I have on here. Yeah, GameSpot. I was watching the video that they do. They actually play through Hollywood Holocaust, which is the first episode, the first map of the game. And besides it being like very smooth and all that stuff, it was the sounds and the music in particular sounds really good now. Like, the music was just blowing me away. I'm like, man, this music sounds really so much better than it used to sound when I played Duke Nukem 3D way back in the day. So that alone has me like, this might be interesting. Just from that perspective, just hearing the music again. But other than that, the game just plays like it did before. I mean, there's not much else to say about that. But I wanted to leave a link to the GameSpot video so you can watch the first episode of that. They kind of putter around a little bit too much on the first level. It's like they forgot how the game played, which I don't know how you could forget the first level of a game that's that iconic, but apparently they did. And they missed a few secrets too, like Duke saying, like when he hit the pinball machine or the arcade machine, Duke saying, "There's no time for me to play with myself," or something like that. So it's there's a few things that they miss in there and otherwise, but it's if you're on a nostalgia trip, that might be something to wait for it to go like on sale or something like that. I'm sure there will be a holiday sale in another month or two on Steam, so that'll be one you'd probably put on your wish list and wait for it. I would recommend that probably. And I think that'll just about do it. I have more stuff here about Atlas Reactor, but I haven't played Atlas Reactor in a little while, so I really want to get back into it again and try to get actually somewhat decent at it, because it's been a while. It's out now on Steam, and I think it's still early access, I believe, but it's a lot more people are into it now. It's like open beta or whatever. And I did a video of it a while ago. I want to get back into that again, because it was a lot of fun. I just didn't, time constraints are rough. But I'll leave you a link to Rock Paper Shotgun. You can take a look at what they've said about it. But so far the consensus has been pretty good. It's certainly a mind bending thing in that everybody takes their turn simultaneously, so you're trying to like figure out what the other players are going to be doing or not doing, and so you can time your actions properly and all that stuff. So of course now if I get when I was playing it before, nobody really was good at the game because there was few people in there. Now I'll probably play it and just get my ass handed to me left, right, and center because there's like people that's probably been like mainlining it as their IV for like 6 months or whatever. But anyway, I think we'll wrap it up here for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, or listening on SoundCloud, and I will see you hopefully next Sunday.